You can call to order.
So call the meeting to order. Yep.
Okay.
Victoria,
Hi, good evening, everybody.
how are you?
Hello.
Good. Happy New Year to you all.
Oh, happy New Year to you.
All right. So just to go over our fiscal year 22 budget summary request. So for fiscal year 22, we are looking for a total department request of $62,437. That is up from the fiscal year 21 of $59,078. So it's a total increase of $33.59. 49,812 of that is going to be in wages for myself as well as for our COA van drivers. And then the additional 12,625 is remaining stagnant from fiscal year 21 in terms of expenses like office supplies, purchase of services, and other expenses that way. I know was speaking with Margaret that we're basically doing like a flat budget increase overall. So I believe that you guys had approved to have the COA director wages increased starting January 1st, which accounts for that $33.59 in terms of the personnel change. So that's what we have. I'll take any questions that you all may have.
I'm sorry, I'm going to defer for a second. Does anyone else on the committee have any other questions? I was just trying to pull up the actual summary. Sorry.
I apologize. I wasn't prepared tonight.
I'm never prepared. Don't you apologize?
Here, I can share it.
And it never seems to be in my docs until you send it again, and then I can look at it when you
Here you
send it
go.
again. It seems to get saved.
Here you go.
Arg. So I guess my first question is wages up more than 2%. Is there is this per personnel committee? Is this just per?
This actually reflects the increase that was approved for funding from the contingency line for FY21.
Oh, right.
For by FinCom and the board.
Okay. So this would come out of that line
This
item?
will carry into the coming year.
In effect, but yeah.
So I noticed, Margaret, on the draft budget that you sent out maybe yesterday, whatever, that there's a there's a note on this line that it was market adjustment. So that would be the personnel committee, right? Doing
the personnel committee recommended it, and they were presented
Okay.
to FinCom and the board. Mm-hmm.
So then I know, June, I think you're muted, but what's the mechanism for how does this actually get paid out of the budget? Like how does that line item get expended so that we are, I guess just my question is how do we make sure that this is not additional tax money paying for this, but this is actually comes from that line? You know, it's sort of like, how do we make sure that the public safety money gets spent on public safety? How do we make sure that the COVID money gets spent on COVID items?
A couple of weeks ago at your meeting, you had received a request for contingency transfer that had a list of a couple of different market adjustments. Those were approved. Now those amounts were not in the original 46,453 dollar amount here on the budget. So for this current fiscal year that we're in now, 21, when you made that contingency transfer a few weeks ago, that brought this number up to the 49. So for this fiscal year in 21, it is not being paid for any other way other than through the contingency line item. So.
So that's the mechanism, and I apologize, I don't remember
No,
doing that
that's,
a couple weeks.
that's fine. There was a couple of them. There was the director, there was the library director, the accountant's clerk.
Public
that's all I-
safety admin.
Yep. So there was like five or six people that were on that list. So that's where this comes into play, is technically we've already raised her pay up to the 49.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
technically, to ask for a level funded budget with what she's being paid for right now for this budget, that would be the 49,812.
Correct.
Does that
Yep.
make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, well, then it certainly seems pretty straightforward. So I don't have any questions on this.
But this does not include the COLA that was also approved, so that has not been affected into this yet.
Right, Mary referenced those green shaded cells in the draft budget sheet that shows those, so. Okay.
Right, I see it, yeah.
Mhm.
So those green shades are all Margaret, are all the 2% COLA, yeah?
Those would reflect the 2% COLA, and where you see, I made those comments on the right. So those here, let me just pull that up real quick while we're.
Yeah, I'm looking at a copy. So
Mhm.
that part-time wage line is showing 30%. And then is it the driver that's showing, I don't know what the other second line down is. Expenses are 2.
Okay, here we go. Oh, wait a minute, I've got to download it. It doesn't work. Okay. Well, maybe I can do it. I can. Just give me 1 second here. All right, I think I can at least make do with this. Let me just go in here a little bit. I hope. Sorry.
What section again is Veterans Affairs?
Here we go. Or Council on Aging is 541.
Council on Aging. Yep.
Yeah, I'll go down to it now and I'll share the screen. Okay. So let me scroll down a little more to 500s. I can.
Draft working budget.
There we go. All right. 500s. Oop. 500s. Here we go. Council on Aging Director, part-time wages. So right there, it shows an increase of 30%. This position was significantly below market. This includes the market adjustment. So this position before Victoria was hired, or when she was hired, actually was just adjusted somewhat up to market. And then there was a further market, and Victoria came on board in July of 2020. And it was just this recent market adjustment that brought it up even further into closer to the market comps. So that's why that is showing at 30% increase. That's, I think, by far the largest increase we have in all of the market rate adjustment positions. And then the other wages, the 2% increase would be the increase in the COA van driver rates. So it would increase from $14.99 to whatever 2% increase is on that.
1525.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. It all makes sense now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Do you want me to stop sharing the budget worksheet? Keep it in the background just in case
Yeah.
we need it again later.
Yeah.
That
Does
one
anybody?
stated, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, did anybody else have any other questions I can answer?
It's not really on the finance side, but how's it going, Victoria, with this pandemic? How are you guys doing?
Well, it's certainly been interesting to say the least. We've had to really, I think, be creative with the services that we're offering to the seniors in town. Right now, we're doing virtual yoga through Zoom every Saturday morning, and it's also being broadcasted to cable access into our YouTube. We now have a playlist on YouTube, so that's helpful. We're doing basically just check-in calls with all the seniors in town, and we're still doing the van service. It's running 3 to 4 days a week. So just trying to be creative of just different things that we can do to help make sure everybody knows that, they're not forgotten and that we can stay engaged. So always open to suggestions from people. We always love feedback. So like I said, it's been interesting, but we're just trying to make do with what we have.
That's great.
I thank you all so much for your time.
All right. Thank you so much for your presenting to us this evening.
Absolutely. You all take care.
Take
Right,
care,
have a great night.
Victoria.
Thanks, Victoria.
Okay, I'm going to promote
All right.
Paul and Sue.
How are our friends at the Board of Health?
Here they come.
Hello, Board of Health.
Hello,
How are you?
doing well, Stan.
Good. What's happening?
Just looking for money.
Yeah, well,
Been there, done that.
yeah. We seem to get a lot of that in these weeks in January and February.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy. All right.
May I request that we kind of jump ahead to Neshoba Health and Neshoba Nursing?
I do hope that I uploaded those budget requests. I will check.
They are there.
They're there. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna have to do them by number.
511, 512,
Okay. All right, let me
or
pull on.
522.
There we go. Okay, that was one. And two. All right.
And the reason I'm asking that we speak about these two first is last Thursday morning, we received an email from Jim Garepi saying that they had voted the previous night to raise their rates by 5% on both. So Neshoba would go from, it would be an additional $406.40, which is typically we do 5% every year. But we went in flat because we were asked to. And typically they never look, they don't vote on their rates till midwinter.
Margaret, are we on 511, 522, 510? Which one are we looking at?
This is 511. I don't know if you can see it in the.
Is she talking about Neshoba Board of Health or is she talking about Neshoba Nursing?
Well, there are two accounts. Neshoba Health is Board of Health, or
Yeah, I just don't know which one she's addressing right now.
I'm addressing 511.
511, okay,
Yep.
sorry.
And that's what's showing on the screen right now. But when Sue's ready to talk about 522, we can go there too.
Yes.
I just can't see your screen because it's too small print. So I had my own, so I wanted to look at it.
Okay.
Sue, tell me again what the percent was Neshoba voted. What percent increase?
5%.
5%. Thank you. Yeah.
Typically, they've been increasing their rates 5% for the last 3 or 4 years. before that, they didn't raise their rates for like 11 years.
Hmm.
So, you know, I kind of knew what it would be, but we were asked to go in flat, so we went in flat. So Margaret, I'm sure Margaret and June and FinCom will tell me how they'd like to proceed, because we did not have this information until last Thursday.
This information shouldn't come as much of a surprise given the pandemic, especially with the public health nursing piece of it. But Neshoba's been under a lot of pressure, immense pressure.
And they are an invaluable service to this town.
Yeah, no doubt, Paul. I assume the town of Berlin has a contract with Neshoba Board of Health and Neshoba Nursing, and the contract permits them to do these increases when,
Well, I keep asking about that, Mary. Apparently,
okay.
the contract has been in place for 30 some odd years. Nobody's shown me a paper copy of it. I haven't found one. But, you know, they've had this community agreement thing and everybody kind of kicks in. I do have their budget, how they portion it out to the towns that I could share, I believe. All their data was sent to me and I can.
Sue, that's what we need. That's similar to what we get from Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, from Neshoba Valley Dispatch District. So the public entities or the quasi-public entities that we actually do business with, we actually get the assessment structure. That would be really helpful.
I can send that out right after this.
Would that help, Mary?
Well, yeah, I'm just curious. I'm assuming that they have the right to do that under the arrangements with the town, but I've been advised not to make assumptions because that, they do a thing that isn't,
They take out.
If they weren't a known entity, I mean, what you're requesting is perfectly reasonable, but if they weren't a known entity that's been in existence for some 30 years, I don't think there's any imminent cause for concern or alarm. They've been servicing the same communities for about as long as they've been servicing Berlin. So in that aspect, there's kind of an inherent checks and balances.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm not, Paul, I'm not trying to raise a big question. It really is just a point of information.
Sure. Yeah, no, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is actually the first time we've received that information, so it's a big step.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Okay, and Neshoba Nursing, again, a 5% increase, which comes out to $185.50. Would someone like me to submit revised request forms?
Yes, please, Sue. If you could do that, we could note them as revised and upload them to the FinCom's folder.
I can do that. And Paul has to sign them, correct? I have to get in here.
Yes, please. And then we'll do our internal, the review process. We'll get it to June, have her look it over, give it to me. I'll upload it. We'll all be.
Whatever makes you happy, Margaret.
Stan, if I may,
Yeah,
Sue, could I just request that you round up, not down?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because the finance committee doesn't like to get cents for reserve fund transfers at the end of the year.
sure don't.
And I don't blame him.
Okay. Where would you like to go next, Finance Committee?
Where would you like to go next? Want to go to
Well,
board?
Yeah, let's do Board of Health.
Okay, we'll go to Board of Health. I'm gonna take that off, and here we go. Okay. Kind of clunky. There you go. Okay, Sue.
Okay. I trimmed $200.
Got it, girl. We knew we could count on you, Sue.
I put us on a deep diet. And we steal the paper clips from other departments.
You know where to find them. You know where to find the paper clips.
And I'll show you my Board of Health folder. That duct tape that I had on a year ago is holding fine. So
Seriously though, how do you reduce telephone? What is that comprised of?
we don't call anybody.
But is that like, is that cell phones? What does that line mean? Telephone for you guys?
That's what we get charged for what's in the office. And
So
we-
that's
if we don't place any
It's
calls,
it's a landline that's used most frequently by Bill Brookings in his duties for us.
gotcha. And then it's literally by use. So if you cut back on it, you can actually save on it. This isn't just like a portion of everybody's phone bill divided by.
whatever June says we have.
All right, I guess what I'm asking is that can that really be reduced by $100? Is that a reasonable thing to expect? And I know it's only $100. I'm just asking more mechanically.
I don't know, I'll make it work. I haven't disappointed you yet.
Okay, gonna hold you to that.
Okay,
Donut Center, we haven't talked garbage yet, Stan.
That is
Like
true.
$50, not 100.
Well, I know, it's just, I'm just curious as to, it's silly. Don't worry about it. Let's move on.
Okay, where do you
Yeah.
want to go?
Sounds like transfer station probably, huh?
Oh, boy, here we go. Now it's time to talk trash.
That's what I just
Yeah,
said.
now the truck talking really starts. That's right.
Margaret, do you know how to share the screen
I
Has
do,
been.
with
I
me?
do, but I can't share yours, Sue. I can only, I'm sorry. You want me to tell you how to do it? You want to do it?
Oh, I think
All you do down at the bottom of your computer, you'll see a share screen button. First of all, you need the document open on your
Yeah, I'm
desktop.
already there, hon.
Okay, so click share screen and then click on the document that you want to share.
Okay, you should be seeing a trash spreadsheet.
She got to turn her video on.
Who, me?
Yeah, you got to turn your video on.
Oh, now that's the hard thing.
All right, down on the bottom left, you'll see a stop video or you'll see a video camera. And maybe there's a red line through it. Click that so it takes the red line away.
You got it.
There you are.
There she is.
Hey, hi, Sue.
Okay.
All right. So we have my spreadsheet back. Is that back up?
Not yet.
Yeah. I'll just email it all to you. It's easier.
I can put up your budget request though, if you'd like. Oh, you're doing it. Now we just got to get your document. Well, that's your desk. There it is.
Nice job. Nice job, Sue.
You know, and all this is, there's really not a whole lot new about trash. We've tried to keep it flat. I went back and looked at the trash numbers, trying to find something to make your evening. However, you know, and this is in tons of trash. So each year we go up a little bit more. Right now, we're about half or a little, no, we were a little more than half of where we should be. So we're forecasting we'll do more trash this year than we did in the previous year. And of course, our trash prices right now are market price. Just imagining going into a restaurant and everything you see on the menu is monthly market price. And that's kind of where we're at. And Paul knows trash better than I do, but so Paul, is there something you would like to add?
Well, we have I'm waiting for the hard copy, but we do have a new contract with BP. We are currently at a fixed rate per ton disposal. Not sure the longevity of that. I believe it should be good for the year based on conversations I've had with our vendor, but still waiting to see it in black and white. So that part, the dollar amount per ton should stay the same. What the variable here is in this whole operation is how much people throw away, how much they recycle. And unfortunately, recycling has an expense to it these days as well. So we're kind of, we're not the tail wagging the dog. It's kind of the other way around. We're dependent upon what our residents do really in terms of what our budget is.
Yeah, do we get anything, do we get money for metal, or do we still get money
We
for
do
metal?
get, that is one area we do get money for,
Yeah.
metal, which is decent. We do
Yeah.
get some money back on corrugated.
Oh, we do?
Not
Again?
a lot, but
Yeah.
it's certainly worth doing.
But it
Didn't
fluctuates.
that, I was gonna say, didn't that flip though? Weren't we paying for that?
Yes, we were, but
Recently.
it's flipped back in our favor again. I think
Okay.
it's maybe $20 a ton now that we
Right.
get for it. It was a year and a half ago when the whole recycling market got turned upside down due to relations with China, and
Right.
China deciding to be a lot more fastidious in terms of what they would allow in terms of cleanliness and so forth. So, and
And
our country
are we
hasn't
actually
been really-
recycling at this point? I mean, do you think they're even doing anything to recycling, or are they just trashing it?
I'm sorry, Stan, say that again.
I said, do you feel like the vendor is actually recycling the product, the plastics and so forth, or do you think they're just trashing it? Do they have a market for it?
Plastic is probably getting trashed,
Yeah.
but it really doesn't make sense, I don't think, to start throwing everything into the trash compactors.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know when something may change in the market, and I don't want to change
I
people's
was gonna say, you don't
habits.
want to get people's habits changed.
Exactly.
What about like the foam and the the foam and the light bulbs and that stuff? Is that, I know that the foam went away.
We're paying to get rid of light bulbs and batteries. The styrofoam we looked at, we were recycling it, but
Right.
because it's lightweight in the volume, it was basically costing us to recycle it. So
Yeah.
we're now just throwing that in the trash as well to eliminate one additional vendor and the expenses associated with that.
Yeah, they were their own separate vendor.
Yes. Glass is being recycled at a reduced rate, where we have a current agreement where we're able to get rid of glass for $60 a ton rather than the trash cost of 110. And that's being reused as aggregate and concrete and other products like that.
Right.
And, we've been encouraging people in the metal, your tin cans from your green beans and all that is actually good steel. So
Yeah.
people, if they rinse them out and throw them in a metal container, it's for the good, and that's you know, it doesn't seem like much, but it adds up over the course of the year. We save a little bit.
Right. What do we do for comp? Do we have a compost? We have capability to compost, right? I mean, I know they do leaves and such. Can people do it? Can people do food scraps or?
They do it, any composting, residential composting is backyard composting.
Okay.
And we have the composters for sale.
That's right.
I'd also like to point out that our year-to-date, as of last Friday, offset revenues from sticker sales, white good fees and such, we're up to $140,000 for this current fiscal year. Now, next year I forecasted.
It's 110. Was it 110? I think.
Well, for the FY22, I think I put in was requesting 120 because I know you guys like to sit on some.
What?
But if you want to give us the 140, our expenses are only when we're closing that gap, costing the taxpayers revenue. I mean, I'll do everything I can, but that's all up to you. But we're tracking it diligently. Any other questions?
I don't think anybody gets as excited about trash as you do, Sue.
Only the numbers. Hey, if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it right.
Right. All righty. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
How's my friend, Sue?
She's doing fine. She wants out. She wants out of the house.
Well, can you blame her? We all do.
I know. We're trying.
All right. Well, thank you, Sue. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
folks.
both very much.
Everybody. Thanks.
Good
Guys, have a
night.
good night.
Have a good night.
Good
Yeah.
night.
I think we have minutes to approve from 2 weeks ago, right? Did we put that off?
And then
or did we-
I have to finish the ones from last week.
Right.
Hopefully I will have time this weekend to work on that stuff.
Well, that's fine. We've gone 2 and 3 months before without getting minutes approved, so I think we'll be doing pretty good if we're at 2 weeks.
Oh. Don't
I
say
mean,
that. I can
yes,
just like
you better-
pile it all
You better
up
get
like
that done right away. Yeah, chop, chop. Yeah.
Subject to June's request, of course.
Yeah, we
Yes.
always we jump whenever June says we jump. We just ask how high and when can we do it. But yeah.
You haven't voted on anything that I need, so you're good. You're
All
good.
right, good.
Good.
So 2 weeks ago would be the what is it?
13th.
13th. Do I have a motion on those minutes? Does everyone have those minutes?
I was just checking to see here. Yeah, I move that we approve the minutes of January 13 as drafted, and they came to us in a email on January 20th.
Indeed, they did. Do I have a second? Can I second, or does someone else, does it need to be a member? I forget.
I'm muted. I'm
rules are.
talking to myself. I said I will second them. Sorry.
Any further discussion? Anyone have any edits or additions or changes? All right, well, hearing none, roll call vote. Stan, or move to accept the minutes. Stan, aye.
Mary, I.
Janet, I.
Scott,
So,
I.
yeah.
Motion carries 5-0 unanimously. All righty. Margaret, do you have anything else for us?
Yes, I do.
course
Next
you do.
week, yes, you're scheduled next week to meet with boards and committees. I'd like to know which specific boards and committees you would want to meet with. I had listed, and I'm sure there was more: conservation, planning, ZBA, agriculture, cemetery, historic, recreation, cultural council. Are there any in particular you'd like to meet with?
Do you know if anybody is like going to be asking for a lot? Because I hear some rumors on the street. I just wondered if you got any. No?
None of these yet. The conservation did have an appointment with the select board on Monday night, and they expressed a need for a conservation agent or some sort of assistance for Concom. But there's absolutely nothing in stone yet. That's the only thing that I'm aware of. So I don't know if you'd want to meet with Concom and maybe have them talk with you about it.
Are they trying to, is that a position or a contractor or
They're
a
looking for,
specific
I think
service?
they're looking for a part-time position, but Monday night was, the first I had heard about it. So I don't know any of the details yet.
How I came across, because I went to the meeting Monday night, how I understood it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Margaret, is they're saying that it is getting so complex and so detailed that the volunteerism piece is beyond. That's how I took it. And they also want some bylaw changes, and then somebody has to govern these new bylaw changes. And I'm not going to speak to them because I'm here as the finance committee, but
yeah, again,
the position they're requesting, I don't know. I'm going to do a lot of research on this, but I would think if we were following the state guidelines instead of Berlin guidelines, that if there was a question, and maybe someone else can speak to this, as I tried to find the answer today in case this came up, the state would come in and assist us with any problems or questions, right?
So no, not necessarily. No,
Okay.
especially with
that out.
Yeah, no, they will assist. They will assist with some things. Sudbury Valley trustees will assist with some things, but they will not assist with the administrative work. They won't necessarily, in some cases, Sudbury Valley trustees might assist with grant applications, but the state will never really assist with our grant applications. So there are conservation agents all across Massachusetts. We could certainly look to see what their duties are. But I think I'd like to hear, the board asked me to have a conversation with John. I'd like to hear more from John about what he's interested in.
Oh, June.
If I may, my 2 cents. I know that originally when we proposed the land use clerk, that clerk was supposed to be for ZBA, for the planning board, and also for the conservation. I know at the time that it came about, I believe it was through Walter, that that there wasn't a need for it at that time. So I know that it was thrown around. I don't know if that's a doable thing right now. I know that they were also conservation. I believe it was John had mentioned something to me about possibly seeing if they could get some funding through their wetlands fund that they want to establish too. So it's one of those, but I know that they were having problems as far as keeping up with a lot of the paperwork type stuff. I'm going to say probably now it's been 2 years that they had originally said that they didn't realize just how much paperwork is involved in a lot of these things. But I personally, through the financial end of things, have definitely found that the departments seem to be overloaded with paperwork. I don't know if it's just they don't want to do it, or it's not high on the priority list on some of the things. But
yeah, I do think that it can. I do think that it could be overly burdensome. Some of their things for a volunteer committee. With the reporting and the initiatives. I think Janet has a valid point about those initiatives, and what kind of priority order are they in, that type of thing. And again, I think it's only fair to talk with John about that.
Well, I think that would be a good one to have then next week if they're available.
Okay.
I'm sure the paperwork, like anything else, as we all know, is just getting extremely burdensome.
Well, Paul, you're still on the call. I mean, I know that Board of Health has expressed that in the last few years for sure.
Yeah, and they've increased Donna's hours a bit to try to help with that. It's a lot. And
the sad thing is that where it's volunteers, sometimes you get volunteers in that love the paperwork and they don't have a problem with doing it. It's when you lose them that is when you find. Yeah.
But it sounds like you're also getting pressure from more regulations in general, and more people and more development and more, it seems you've only been here for a few years, but just more projects in general.
Yeah.
Going up.
In my case, I'm volunteering, but my school nurse job, which is typically a 30-hour-a-week job, has become a 50 and 60-hour-a-week job since the pandemic. And I'm working 20, I'm not kidding. I'm getting calls at 11 o'clock at night from Board of Health because they don't want kids coming to school the next morning. And I'm having to then email parents at that hour of the night and then making sure, you're standing guard at the door the next morning. It's like, it's exhausting. So
COVID is exhausting.
Yeah,
It's
it
exhausting.
really is. So I can see, and I'm sure with all these agencies that are closed, it's, it's twice the email, it's twice the phone calling. I mean, I can see that end of it.
So I'll ask John if he's available, and as long as they don't come with a quorum of members, maybe a few of them can come and discuss can discuss their budget and initiatives with the FinCom. Okay.
So Margaret, your original schedule on these meetings, it says if required. So these other boards, if they're flat funded, do we really need to?
No, I was going to leave this to FinCom to decide who you might want to meet with and who you don't feel you need to meet with.
So conservation, I think it would be good to have a conversation with them that along the lines Janet raised, but planning board usually.
As far as I know, yes, all of these other boards and committees are level funded.
I was going to say, and they didn't put anything in their narratives, right, that they needed or thought of something else that they might want to do, right? None of them except.
I don't believe any of them. Yeah, I don't believe any of them did.
Margaret, if we couldn't, if they say, if it comes to the decision of hiring somebody to assist with, I'm just thinking outside the box here, with the conservation, would it make more sense to look at what other boards and committees might need and try to come up with something? I hate to say, somebody that you could groom to help with all of these people rather than trying to piecemeal it together. And I know then you end up with a full-time benefited, I get all of that. But in continuity of trying to keep appropriate and accurate record taking, it may make more sense to spend a little more, don't yell at me, than to try to cheap it out. Does that make sense to any of all of you?
It makes total sense. The thing that we want to, it makes total sense. The thing that we definitely need to look out for are the indirect costs, the health insurance costs and things like that. So, from what I understand, from what June has explained, the land use clerk originally was intended to take on more of the duties. It is a 24-hour-a-week position, but that 24 hours can't handle all of the land use boards by any stretch of the imagination. So it's things like that, I think, that we need We
And
need
I
to cut
know
out.
weren't we also looking at making, and I'm not talking person, but the I don't know what you would call it, the electrical, gas, and building inspectors, those hours were at one point going to go up as well. Was that not right, June? Am I correct in remembering that? And then things got quiet, so they didn't, or?
At one point, yeah, they were talking about putting all the offset receipt inspectors on a regular salary, but that they did away with that for right now.
No, I don't mean a regular salary. I mean the person that was that position that covers all of those.
That's the land use clerk.
Oh, that is the same person we're talking
Yep.
about. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So they were talking about taking that position and making a little bit more.
Because that's the one that originally she was doing both. She was doing the inspectors, and then she was also doing ZBA.
Okay.
And last year we combined those two.
That was combined, right? Last year that was combined. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking. Okay, so maybe we need to do something like that with some of these other committees, because I can't see, I don't know how many hours that position is.
Yeah, I think unfortunately what we need is we need it coming from the actual boards that are looking for the help, because it's a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of hearsay, but I think we need to actually have them start documenting what it is that they're finding they really need versus it just being thrown around. Because I mean,
and from my own perspective, as an administrator, I truly appreciate the continuity or the consistency of the in-house staffing that can kind of carry the boards and committees workload on a day-to-day basis, even if it's only a minimal amount. But I think that I don't know, that is something that I would appreciate. But,
no, I can't see. I mean, I've now been in municipalities as a school nurse. This will be starting my 5th year, and I definitely see how things go and work and function when I'm trying to put a budget together. And I can tell you, it's been much easier having one person coming in on a salaried position rather than having 3 different people come in as a per diem. And you never knew who you were going to get. And the person you were working with yesterday knew what you were going to do the next day. And somebody else came through the door and you had to take 30 minutes to orientate them to what went on yesterday, what I want to do today, and what we're going to do tomorrow, and hope the person comes tomorrow. And it just makes, it just makes more sense to have some continuity.
I agree with that from my perspective. Where am I? I have a couple of other little pieces of brand new news. So the governor filed his FY22 spending plan today, and he is actually proposing an increase in unrestricted municipal, unrestricted general government aid by 3.5%. Now, you might recall this year we projected a reduction in what we call UGA, or the or state aid, local receipts, and not local receipts, state receipts, and they came in at the just about what they had originally submitted, what the governor had originally submitted. He appears to be planning that same thing this year. I'm a little more confident this year that these numbers would stick, or that at least we'd be able to reverse the reduction in our projection for FY21, not reverse it, but eliminate the reduction and at least level fund at the FY20 level, which would increase our available revenues by about $40,000 to $50,000. So, but the administrative finance team and I have not had a chance to discuss this yet. We do. We do know we have to be conservative, but I'm a little more optimistic. This doesn't mean that this will last into FY23 by any means, because this is going to be a multi-year economic impact. But where he has filed for what did he file? It was like $39.5 million increase across the state in unrestricted general government aid, which is unprecedented. So once the team and I talk, we're going to meet next week. I'll come back to the finance committee and we can talk about this some more. Don't need that. Central Mass Regional Planning Commission has submitted their assessment for FY22, and I have plugged it into the worksheet that is in your drive now in your folder. And it's an increase of $21.03 to $862.29 for FY22. And that CMRPC, in my opinion, is one of the best bangs for the, bangs for the town's buck that we could ever have. They provide so much technical assistance and support to the town for $862.29 a year. It's absolutely amazing. Okay, let's see. The school also, we just received the school's E&D calculation, excess and deficiency. They have, which is essentially what we would call our free cash. Their E&D for this year is $424,528. So it's going to be interesting to see how they plan to apply any of those E&D funds to offset budget increases or help fund their capital project requests.
How does that compare to previous years, do you know?
Let's see. Do you, June, I don't have last year's in front of me.
I don't either. I'm sorry.
Scott, I can get that answer for you though.
Okay.
That would be my last year's binder. And those are really the only updates I have tonight for you.
Well, let me ask the group this. I mean, if we were just going to have Concom come talk to us, and the week after we have Assabet as the only thing on, what would people's thoughts be about taking next week off and just putting Concom on the 10th with Assabet? Or do you feel like we need to keep our schedule weekly? Stunned silence.
I'm fine with either. I don't know how much time Assabet will need.
Well, they're generally pretty together, so I don't think that it's going to be they're not going to be more than a half an hour. I mean, our preliminary with them was less than that, so I don't think that would be more than a half an hour, and I don't think Concom's going to be, a crazy long time either. I think would be a 10-15 minute discussion at the most. So I don't know. Just a thought. I'm just not a big fan of meeting for the sake of meeting. That's all.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, if any members have any concerns about gaps, gap in information over these 2 weeks, I'll certainly keep you apprised of any new developments by email.
Well, yeah, and clearly, it's if something comes up that requires it. I just, again, not excited about having meetings for the sake of having meetings. That's all.
I'd rather meet the 3rd and take the 10th off.
Well, we'd have to push up Assabet then.
Yeah, I'm a little hesitant about moving Assabet to. They've prepared for the 10th.
Stan, I'm happy to go with your suggestion.
What, Mary?
I'm happy to go with your suggestion. Cancel the 3rd and have Concom come on the 10th.
Janet, do you have a conflict with the 10th?
It's my birthday.
My birthday.
Well, we also have a committee of 5 now. So if we had a committee of 4 for that night, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It's not like in the old days.
Go anywhere or do anything,
Janet, we can make it like a party.
Yeah, it's not
We
like
can send over cupcakes.
Yeah.
oh, gluten-free, don't forget.
Gluten-free, yeah.
One thing I'd say, you mentioned the other committees, whether we want to meet with them, but do any of them want to meet with us? Should we put out the proposal that they want to possibly meet with us?
Yeah, that's a good point.
As much as they are level funded, they might have some misgivings at some of that. And want to explain to us what is, any issues they see with that. So do you want to put out an offer and see if anybody wants to take us up for maybe a meeting next week, give them a certain deadline, and if they don't, then we just skip next week?
Yeah, I mean, we also have that week, that February 24th, we have as a hold for additional budget meetings as well. So there's also another week in there of, a placeholder kind of thing.
When's Tohoto coming?
The week after, so they're the
17th.
17th. But I mean, I think that's a good idea, Scott. I think we can put it out there, and we don't necessarily even have to say that it's next week. We can put it out there if there's any requests and see if, and then we can schedule it if there's a need.
Yeah, we can indicate we don't see a need to meet with them and want to make sure that
Right.
they
No, that's a very good point. I mean, they should be included if they choose to be.
What, I know this is like really going really far out, but maybe we, since we really don't know what all those other committees may need and want, maybe this is the opportunity also to ask them is how they're doing with their bookkeeping and their grants and their this and their that, because that might give us a better idea of what type of person we may be looking for if we do decide we need to add an additional salaried person to assist with some of these other boards and committees. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know. Have you heard that anybody else is wanting or needing some assistance other than
Well, I think I'm certainly not going to speak for the planning board, but I do know that Eloise volunteers to do their minutes every meeting. And, whether that's sustainable over the long term, that would be a question for the planning board.
I think since we've already got one board asking, is this going too far out? Because I'm just thinking if this ends up being, 3 boards saying that, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. After listening to conservation last night, they seem like they really could use some help.
Well, I guess from my standpoint, I would say the bigger part of me would say I would want people to ask for us. I mean, ask from us eliciting is.
No, I was just curious if Margaret heard of anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to reach out to all these boards and committees to ask if they have any interest in meeting with.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not excited about that because I feel like if you ask them, they're going to say, of course. I feel like if they're not asking, then why are we trying to give?
Do whatever you ask me.
Okay.
But that's me. This is a committee. This is not Stan. This is a committee.
No, I hear what you're saying because someone might not be, but maybe they don't even. I don't know. It's a lot, and I just felt bad. So.
Well, I'm wondering if we go down that route.
People are shy about asking for more. They pretty much come out and ask when they're looking for more.
I was going to say though, once you start that process, other committees might then see it's like, oh, we need that too.
Oh, yes, and that's my fear.
That's kind of what I was trying to be coming the other way, like, you know what I mean?
So if you do it the other way, you kind of have a inventory of what people think they're going to need.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
I would hope that they would be giving that thought when they're doing their budget requests. I mean, that's kind of the purpose behind submitting a budget for the next year is to be giving thought to that stuff. And if they're submitting, granted, I know we asked them for a flat budget, but there's a reason we've asked them for a flat budget.
We asked them for backup for additional requests as well. We asked them to attach it as a separate narrative.
So, I mean,
and some departments like June's did.
Right. And those, yeah.
Did any of those others have anything in the capital planning? Because I don't see anything listed.
No, that's a really great question. No, none of these have anything on capital planning. Conservation did have something that they had submitted, but then withdrew. But there's nothing new from conservation on that.
And just an update on capital planning. Last night, correct me,
Oh,
Margaret, if I'm wrong. They did approve for the fire, the
Car 2, the pickup,
pickup and the sharing of equipment with Clinton.
bucket truck.
Bucket truck. I was going to say chipper because it was one and then it got separated out. And they're a little bit puzzled about the school actually not spending the money that was approved, and asking for some additional money to do some type of surveying of buildings. Was that what it was?
Yep,
Margaret?
yep, it's a buildings
Building
buildings
needs
condition survey.
which was
to identify.
$35,000, right?
Yeah, it's a placeholder.
A placeholder, yep. And they approved.
A loader
Oh, yeah.
loader replacement.
They went on at this, because I had been to the meeting to hear what was wrong with the loader. They started asking, and I said, may I just interrupt for a second? And I said, maybe you won't have to ask so many questions if I just let you know how it was explained to us. It's kind of like running like Fred Flintstones, your feet through the bottom of the, and they went, okay, we don't need to hear anymore. It's a safety issue. And I explained to them how they had done some modifications because they didn't have, certain things, and they were asked by OSHA to undo the modifications, and they're like, oh, no. So they approved that one. What else did they approve, Margaret? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, I wish I had it in front of me.
I know, I
should have it
thought I
in front of me.
had it in front of me too. Do any of you remember?
They
any of the other-
approved the cruiser replacement, the
Oh, yeah, the
annual
cruiser
replacement, and that would be a hybrid
Yeah.
again.
And like you, they wanted to try to get money for their ones they're getting rid of, but because they've literally run them into the ground, there's, what did he say, $300 for a trade-in, so he could actually just go to the junkyard in Berlin and trade it in up there, and it would
Scrap
kind of
metal.
be like a local, supporting your locals.
Yeah.
I have a question. Did anything come up talking about the ambulance?
Oh,
'Cause
yes.
I have a question on that one.
Yeah, no, they, that one is on
It's on hold.
till
I
December.
had a
next
recommendation
week.
on it. Yeah.
Yep, and then there was one other thing that's on hold till next week.
Wood chipper.
The wood chipper, and I want to say it was another piece of equipment. Might have been the ambulance.
Well, on the ambulance, the question I wanted to ask,
Brush truck.
or at least to come up, is I was trying to remember this from last time. I couldn't get my information together quick enough. Typically, when we bought ambulance, I know we've done the rescue squad receipts have been used to
Right.
partially offset the cost. And so I was trying to figure out what is the balance in the rescue squad receipts today. And that was never mentioned by the fire chief. And is
Right.
that under consideration?
Okay, I'll start. June, you can weigh in, but let me start.
Talking, so I have time to look it up.
Okay, so last year, and I don't know how many years prior to that, the town applied $100,000 of those ambulance receipts to the operating budget. This year, and June will have to look at the balance. This year to date, collections, not to date, but probably say the end of December, maybe, collections were $89,000. So if we intend to use $100,000 from the ambulance receipts, they need to be received by a date certain, so we know we have those funds available. That means that there would be no extra from the current year. And I don't know, June, what's available from prior years?
Right now I'm seeing, I believe that there is 375,000 in that account.
375,000?
Yeah. How much did we use last year out of there?
100,000.
Yeah, because I've seen like when last time we bought an ambulance, we used 125,000.
Okay.
And that was I guess that was for fiscal year 2018. I believe it was approved.
Feels like we did that in I thought it was 19. Was it 18?
It was on the, it was in the capital plan for, let's see.
I mean, I think we talked about it for about 3 years before we finally did it.
Yeah, it was on the list. It was, I'm trying to see, this was
think it was
for
18.
fiscal
I
year
think you're right.
18. Yes,
I think
it
I
was
remember them
for,
saying that last night, that it was 18.
well, actually, I'm just looking here. Maybe it was not done because as I read this upside down, it was had finance committee non-approval of 0 to 4 or
So this
I
this
think
is
we,
where the
I think
town
we
meeting
put it off one
proceedings
more
are
year
looking.
to
you
19.
put it off one more year.
I think so. But having said that, I mean, we still did it. I mean, we have the new one,
Well,
and
that sheds new light
June
on
claims that we still have all this money. Way to go, June.
Here you go.
Yeah, no kidding.
He was open no way to ask, actually.
Hey, that turned out to be a really
Yeah,
lucrative
that's what
question.
I'm showing here right now. I'm showing 375. We took out 100 and we've brought in approximately 79, give or take a few.
Well, I know that there was also discussion about billing and trying, like, making a push to get billing out there and to really do push more for collections / billing.
Yeah,
And are we
really
seeing
been
a
working on that, trying to get some of the older stuff taken
Yeah.
care of. So
are we
working
so we're
through the process.
so we're seeing do you think we're seeing some benefits? Some
Yeah, I haven't actually compared it to where we were before, but I mean, it feels a little better as far as at least people are active and they're looking at stuff and actually following up on things. So
Well, it sounds like if there's that much money in the account, I mean, I felt like the reason that FinCom pushed it off another year was that there wasn't enough money to cover the new ambulance, and we were waiting until we had enough money. And it seems odd that there would be this much still in there in only
well,
a year.
I want to say at one time we were using about 100,000 a year out of there, between 80 and 100,000.
Using for what?
Using money towards the operating budget.
Towards
Which
the
is
budget.
what we did last year and what we would want to do this year.
So if we're bringing in a little bit more than what we're taking out, whatever's left over is what's
Right.
been accumulating, which at one time then we had taken money out for the ambulance.
But if we still have 380 in there,
Mhm.
and we took 100, even if we take 120, that brings us to 260. And what's the request for the new ambulance?
310.
310.
310. So
there
It's
isn't
not-
quite enough there to take, but it could assist.
well, sure. Or we kick it down the road one more year until there's more receipts. We're good at that.
Yeah. My
And
My
hopefully
only
we'll start
suggestion is
getting more
we've
receipts
always
now that we're
kind
looking
of-
at it, yeah.
We've
I
always
wouldn't-
kind of held 1 year there just so that way there, in case anything should happen, there's always 1 year to fall back on, but that's
Mhm.
just me being the accountant.
No, that's good. You need to have a plan.
Like to have a
You need to
cushion.
have a plan. So my recommendation last
My
night
plan
was
would be to
actually,
find it somewhere else. But anyway, go ahead. Yes, Mark.
okay. No, my recommendation was to split the cost over 2 years because it was originally scheduled for replacement in FY '23. And the chief had bumped it up to FY '22. And so my thought was split the cost over 2 years, hold $160,000 of the public safety mitigation funds, or hold on to the ambulance receipts for a year, $160,000 worth, and apply $160,000 from public safety mitigation. Give us another year of trending history to look at the billing, since we're trying to really ramp up the billing and the collections to see how we track that. And Chief's okay with waiting to FY '23. We just need to determine the most responsible way to move forward.
And just
with the
remember now we
purchase.
have 2 ambulances, not just 1 anymore.
That's right.
So we also have to make sure we're alternating when we're replacing, otherwise it throws the whole theory off.
Yes, and we have to look at that too. So yeah.
Well, I mean, it certainly seems to me like it's an absolute perfect or appropriate use of safety mitigation funds as well. And if it was to the point where it was either dangerous or going to be costing us more hanging on to it in repairs than it would be to replace, then that seems to make some sense there too, rather than just kicking it down the can. To me, it feels like we have funds to cover it outside of, free cash. And I think that we ought to apply either receipts or safety mitigation, or push it back until we have that stuff rather than have it come out of free cash. That would be my suggestion.
The use of free cash guidelines are shown on the capital planning committee's 5-year capital plan. So the use of free cash guidelines and the 10% use of free cash toward the capital budget, it shows. And as of last night, based on the recommendations, there would still be a balance left in the available free cash of about $81,000. So it doesn't empty out the available free cash that FinCom's guidelines say could be used toward the capital budget.
Okay.
And I think that's everything they talked about, right? I know there was some issue with me getting in, but I think I heard everything, even though I was sitting on the other side.
I learned a lot about mechanics.
Oh, I know. He was she asked some really tough questions, and he was like, whoo, spot on.
He knows his vehicle.
He certainly does. And he was so appreciative of her questioning of him. Mm-hmm. He was just so gracious, I guess.
I'm sorry, who is the her and the him here?
Chief Clark.
Anna Crane, the chair of the capital planning committee, and Chief Clark.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys are always looking for fun and exciting things to read. And I know that you're not per se coming into your mailbox like you used to. But I did.
The old mailbox. She's got to go to another meeting.
I know.
The mailbox.
I just didn't know, because where Scott had asked about the ambulance information there. I didn't know if you guys would be interested in receiving the financial statements, possibly by email, or if you want me to scan them in if you're interested, or I can leave you a copy here just to throw it out there.
I have to get in there this week to at least by Monday or Tuesday to get a dog license and get sworn in. So I will pick up our mail and make sure Stan gets it.
Thank you, Janet.
Girl Scout honor.
I didn't see you guys all jumping at that offer, so but
that
it's
was
there. If you ever want it, it just.
So June, when you say financial statement, it means where we're at currently? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I give them out every month.
Oh, okay.
Just so you can also see what's come in for revenues, what all the departments are spending.
I would love those, because I was going to ask, where are we on our receipts?
Mm-hmm. Yep, those are all the financial statements that you.
Yes, I want them via email.
I'm sure you all filed away, but
not paper copy.
Maybe
is that something that could go into the folder on the Google Drive, or
is that not for public consumption?
Or is that not?
No, it's all public information.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we
would like to figure out how
the Google Drive. That's a great idea, Julie.
I'm trying to figure out how I can put it up monthly on the website, but I haven't gotten quite that far in my spare time.
Or the email would be useful too.
Okay.
You couldn't put them in the Google Drive like Margaret?
I could. Well, I think. Oh, June. I can teach you. I can teach you how to do it.
It's really easy. I could come and teach you.
I'm sure you could. I just right now, that's not high on my priority list of learning right now.
How about on Amy's?
Only if you give her an extra 5 hours.
Right. How about if we volunteer other people who aren't here? Because that's what you do in committees.
Maybe you could get a senior write-off that's tech savvy. There's somebody actually looking for that right now.
We're actually talking about that, yes.
There is somebody in town that is a senior that wants a write-off that has huge skills in that department. Somebody just told me that the other day.
Mm-hmm.
He's
doing something. He's doing something else for us.
Oh,
That's
so it's
very,
like-
very important. And so if June, very important, if June, if June decides that she can email you out the, as an attachment, I can just upload it to the Google folder.
If it's easy enough, yeah, I can do that.
I'm okay either way, June. And, you know, I think like a quarterly look at it would be satisfy me, but if you do it monthly, I have no complaint with that.
Okay.
All right, folks, we have anything else?
Not I, Stan.